The SDGs Youth Hangout is another group that has been making major impacts in the pursuit of the SDGs. The group recently in Abuja collaborated with the Wildlife of Africa Conservation Initiative and the Canadian High Commission to hold an interactive session on marine species, wildlife conservation, and biodiversity management in Nigeria to mark the World Wildlife Day. The report.
Every year, the United Nations and its member states celebrate 3rd of December as World Wildlife Day. The day was set aside by the United Nations General Assembly in 2013 to raise awareness on the dangers of gradual disappearance of wild animals and plants from their habitats and the need to take concrete actions to reverse the trend. This year's edition of World Wildlife Day was commemorated under the theme Life Below Water for People and Planet, which aligns closely with Goal 14 of the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). To mark the day, a group, SDGs Youth Hangout, in collaboration with the Wildlife of Africa Conservative Initiative and the Canadian High Commission, held an interactive session in Abuja on marine species, wildlife conservation, and biodiversity management in Nigeria. The event had in attendance representatives from the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Canada High Commission, federal ministries, departments and agencies, wildlife documentary photographers, among others. The session highlighted the critical importance of marine wildlife to human existence. This year's World Wildlife Day focused on marine species for the first time. The decision was born out of the realization that marine wildlife has sustained human civilization and development for years, from providing food and nourishment, materials for construction and craftwork, as well as for their cultural, spiritual, and recreational benefits. Recent statistics gave the number of identified ocean species at nearly 200,000, while actual numbers of marine lives may be in millions. Globally, through commerce and natural resources, the market value of marine resources and coastal industries is estimated at $3 trillion per annum, making it about 5% of the world's GDP. It has also been estimated that over 3 billion people depend on ocean for their livelihood. But the capacity of life below water for continuous sustenance of humanity is now being greatly hampered as the ocean and the lives that live within come under threat of extinction due to overexploitation, pollution, climate change, and loss of coastal habitats. These threats, in turn, have a strong impact on humans who depend on marine ecosystem for livelihood. Speaking during the event, Catherine Kidza Hudson from the Department of Environment, Science, Technology, and Health of the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria says the trend can only be reversed if people are made to understand the roles of aquatic lives in the general ecosystem. Also speaking at the event, Joy Jumbo, Director of Events at the Wildlife of Africa Conservative Initiative, raised alarm over the growing rate of disappearance of endangered species in Nigeria, while calling for proper enlightenment of people on the need to protect and conserve life below water. 3 short movies on wildlife exploitation, preservation, and challenges faced by species below water in Africa were also screened at the session. On how best the country can effectively curtail the illegal exploitation, unregulated fishing, and poaching of endangered marine species, the Special Systems Operations Officer at the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRIA, Oehi Sevalin, and the Deputy Director, Technical Education, Technology and Science Education Department of the Ministry of Education, Ayo Omolola, gave hints on the steps already being taken to achieve that in the country. Rose Kefas, Technical Assistant to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, told the session how the SDGs Office has been contributing towards the actualization of Goal 14 of the SDGs, which is to conserve and sustain the use of oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Convener of the session, Seyi Adegbote, Director of Advocacy at Wildlife of Africa Conservative Initiative, spoke on how his organization is working to include rural dwellers and those living in riverine areas in advocacy activities and sensitization programs on preservation of life underwater.